one of the lost virtues in our contemporary world of multitasking and thoughtless quick responses on social media. And by the way, Tim talks about empathy and suffering in Chapter 3. It may be a good idea to start in that chapter. As I was reading through this book, I wanted to pick up the phone and thank Tim for writing a book on spirituality for seminary presidents. No, this is not written for folks like myself, but I found myself grateful for what is written for a different audience. So many of the important lessons of life, especially the life of a leader, sacred rhythms, suffering, humility, power, pace, obscurity, are found in these pages. Please read this book slowly and talk to your spouse, spiritual director, family, or church small group about it. Mull over the concepts. Pick up your Bible and look at the passages for yourself. And pray. I should also add that this book is part of a quartet of books about church planting. The first book, Why Church, gave an overview of what the church, or a local church, can and should be. The second, Sent to Flourish, is a compilation of chapters written by a diverse group of church planters. This third volume, Planting a Church Without Losing Your Soul, is the critical one, for if the church planter is not healthy, all the right theology and strategy is for naught. The fourth volume will be on the missional pastor, another long overdue book. Leslie Newbegin, missionary to India and to England, said on a number of occasions that the local church must be a signpost of the kingdom. However, this will happen only if the churches are led by leaders who are being made more into the likeness of Jesus Christ. Tim Morey is a helpful guide for us on that journey. Scott W. Sundquist, President, Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary. Introduction. What does a spiritually formed church planter look like? I was a 25-year-old, newly married seminarian when I began to sense I was called to plant a church. I shared my growing sense of call with the professor of the church planting elective I was taking. He also served in our denomination's church planting team. And before I knew it, Samantha and I were stuffing warm clothes into a suitcase and boarding an airplane for a church planter assessment center in Connecticut. As state after frozen state passed beneath us, I looked out the window and dreamed of the church we might plant in our hometown of San Diego. In my mind, the church was full of excited young adults with an unquenchable passion for God's kingdom. I couldn't wait to see it become a reality. At the assessment center, our days were spent in the basement fellowship hall of an old Baptist church. Church planter candidates gave sermons, shared their calls to ministry, underwent numerous uncomfortably personal interviews, participated in group projects and case studies so assessors could watch both our reasoning skills and our ability to work with others, and were evaluated by the resident psychologist. At night, Samantha and I would return exhausted to the home of an elderly widow who had offered to put us up in her guest room. No matter how late we got in, she would greet us with hot tea and warm conversation. I would smile and listen, but mostly I was thinking about my fellow assessees. They were so gifted in so many ways, and I was intimidated. How did I get here? I wondered. I don't measure up. We endured 3 days of being under the microscope, and then, on the morning of day 4, they gave us the verdict. In the view of the assessors, a group of seasoned planters and pastors, did we have the competencies needed to plant a church? When it was our turn to hear the verdict, they steered us to the director's office instead of into the room where the other assessees were meeting. That makes sense, I thought. They send the ones they are rejecting to the director so he can tell them in person. The director smiled warmly and shook our hands. "Have a seat," he said, as he took his place on the other side of the desk. Samantha and I sat silent and stiff, holding hands, eyes forward. I could barely breathe. "Let me get right to it," the director said. "We